I would say like everybody needs to have at least like start with a month, but then 3 months, 6 months worth of saving is so, so, so important, especially as freelancers. So you don't always feel like you're on the edge because
Yeah.
you can't function like that. We're creative people.
Yeah.
You need to have some time to make those errors, make bad creative decisions, and then learn from it fast.
Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for creative people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're an artist, designer, or creative entrepreneur who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your own time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello, welcome. I'm so excited on the Sunlight Podcast today to bring you an interview with a client and an amazing artist, Sneha Shrestha. Did I say that right, Sneha?
Oh, it's Shrestha.
Shrestha. Okay, sorry. I'm usually calling you Sneha. All right, so I'm going to introduce Sneha, and then we're going to chat. I'm so excited. Sneha, also known as Imagine in the art world, is a Nepali artist who incorporates her native language and meshes the aesthetics of Sanskrit scriptures with Newari festival influences. She's shown her meditative works in several exhibitions, commissioned works, and public walls around the country and all over the world, from Kathmandu to Boston. Her painting Devi was recently acquired by the Worcester Art Museum, and her show Mindful Mandalas was on view at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. That is so cool. Currently, her interactive installation Love and Maya is on view at the Boston Children's Art Museum. Her newest work is a 30-foot sculptural piece commissioned by the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, currently on view, and she was recognized by WBUR as one of the 25 millennial artists of color impacting Boston. Shrestha's, I'm sorry, I'm doing a bad job.
It's
Work
okay.
is held in the private collections of Facebook, Google, and Fidelity Investments. Sneha received her master's from Harvard University. Besides creating larger-than-life murals and paintings, Sneha passionately supports Asian art by working as the arts programs manager at the South Asia Institute at Harvard. Sneha, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm good.
Good.
I'm busy, but I'm good. A little bit tired, but I'm good.
This is really interesting you say that. We were chatting before we started recording, but that's a little bit of a theme that I want to actually talk to you about today, because when I first met you, when I first started doing your taxes, I really noticed that you seem to be having a whole bunch of success. And that when I talked to you, kind of one of the themes that I really noticed was how you seemed really exhausted. And I think a lot of times people they'll look at your Instagram, they see, oh my goodness, she has this mural that just got commissioned by the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, how incredible. And they don't think about how do you feel? How much sleep are you getting? Are you? So talk to me a little bit about that time. What was going on for you at that time? I'm just really curious.
Sure. Yeah, I think the first couple of years was just kind of feeling it out, seeing, what I could paint, where I could paint. I had no idea, obviously, how to do full-time sort of having a full-time art practice. I had no idea. And so my basic goal or my definition of success at that time was, can I pay my bills and survive?
Mm-hmm.
That was, that was my goal at that point. And then, I was enjoying myself so much that I was really sort of taking up everything, and the time was right. And, I was doing everything that I could to paint, and I was having so much fun. It was my first time ever that I dedicated all my time to painting. It was exhilarating. So it was great. I think after the first 2 years, I was just like going into the third year, or like maybe 1.5 or 2 years after, I was like, things are going good, but it doesn't feel good. Like, it gives me anxiety to think of the beginning of next year, because next year, January is a whole new, like, starts a whole new year.
Mhm.
How do I start from scratch? That's how I felt. And, I just went sort of offline for like a month or month and a half, where I was just enjoying myself and my life, and I was painting, but I wasn't documenting it. And it felt wonderful. I was, just trying to figure out what I enjoyed doing. And that kind of refreshed me by the time I got back to the US. So basically, winters I spend in Nepal, and then mural season, summertime, I'm back here in the US.
Uh-huh.
And so, by the end of the year, like around this time, I would like, after Thanksgiving time, I would fly to Nepal. And then when I was there, I was just like, I just don't want to do any work. Like, I
Mhm.
saw it as work and not my favorite thing to do. So I
Yeah.
needed to take a little break. And I think there's no way to, I don't think there's a way to prevent it, because everybody has their own thresholds. Everybody has their own sort of definition of what is enough right now, or I'm tired right now, you
Yeah.
know? And so I think it's totally okay to be like, I don't know, for the next 2 weeks, I don't feel like, doing this, like working on a painting or something.
Mhm.
Let me do something else that makes me happy.
Yeah. Do you have any strategies for, so I mean, I'm really curious about what that transition was like. I mean, you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about getting to a point where, first of all, where you were first full time, right? Like that in and of itself is a huge transition, right? And you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about like working all the time and being tired. Tell me what that felt like. And then I'm really curious to know, like, as you've matured and being a full-time
Mm-hmm.
artist and you're, getting all this like stuff that to me looks like amazing success,
Mm-hmm.
what you've learned about like self-care and just like, taking care of yourself so that it stays fun.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in the beginning, I was just taking up all the jobs and everything, which I
Mhm.
still, it was so exhilarating that I did, but it did
Mhm.
lead to a little bit of burnout, in terms of like, I don't want to think about it, became work and not
Yeah.
my favorite thing to do, like I said. And so I also realized that I wasn't spending as much time with my friends, because I was so engrossed with this new lifestyle that, it was fun, it's exciting, but I didn't make time. Either I was traveling,
Mhm.
if I was in the US, or I was back home in Nepal, also working, creating paintings, being in my own world, maybe doing a little bit of social media, but not really spending time with friends or making time for friends and family, because I felt like that was the most important thing. And at that time it was, and I don't think I would know to change it if I were to do it all over again, because I went into it head first and so fast. I
Mhm.
think that's how I learned fast and failed fast. Because
Yeah.
like being an artist, we're small businesses at the end of the day. Do you like it or not? You are a small business. A lot of people don't like to use like the B word, which is business, or like the M word, which is money.
That's
They,
true.
people get uncomfortable, like shifting their seats and stuff when I say like, I need to run my business. And
Mhm.
it sounds maybe weird to people, but at the end of the day, you are a small business. And to run small businesses, to be entrepreneurial, is to test fast and, you know, um, fail fast.
Yeah.
And that's called being agile. So if you're agile, then you're kind of like learning fast as well. So I think
Mhm.
that's the approach that I took. And so after the first couple of years, I realized that I was looking at a more wholesome picture of myself in terms of what success looked like. So it wasn't just making money off of art, while 17-year-old me would have been thrilled with just that, right? Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
even in my dreams growing up in Nepal that I would make a living doing art. And now, after a few years, the wholesome picture involves, making time for family, painting when I don't need to, experimenting fast, and, figuring out what I like, what I don't like.
Mhm.
In the beginning, I was really stuck on, and it comes from insecurities too, being a being a new sort of full-time artist is if something worked, then I would, really try to squeeze whatever it is that worked out of it and only do that and sort of stick to that. So like if murals worked, I was only doing murals. I wasn't even posting or sharing about paintings. But in
Uh-huh.
reality, my murals are born out of my paintings, this personal time in studio, this introspective, reflective time in my studio. So the other thing that I do now is make time to have studio time and make paintings and do things that, I'll paint something and I'll hate it, but at least I know I hate it and I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to look at a visual version of something that I hate doing. Whereas I was scared back then. And then I also have like additional art mediums that I explore as a beginner. So with painting, I'm pretty familiar with it, right? I'm familiar with my letters. But sometimes if I just want to de-stress, I play with like what is it called? I have it here. It's like bakeable clay.
Oh.
So yeah, it's like super colorful and it's just a joy to work with. I bought like this big pack with like 40 colors.
Uh-huh.
And you just sit and you listen to an audiobook on a weekend. You just like creating, I don't know, silly figures and stuff. And it's just fun. And
Yeah.
and because you're a creative person, who most of us are, it's important to find those things that help you relax. If it used to be painting and now you're doing it so much, if it doesn't feel that way, it's fine. Find something else that makes you feel like a beginner and you're exploring. And that in turn helps your painting practice, where you're also approaching it as a beginner and failing becomes okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you're talking about that. It's coming up again and again. And I love that because, I think that this idea of perfection and also like transitioning into from when your art is, a dream and a thing you do for fun and a hobby to a full-time profession and a living, like when you're making a living and when you're running a business, there are parts that are hard and parts you don't like. I mean, from the
Mm-hmm.
IRS perspective, like those things are actually proof that it is a business,
Right,
So it's just,
right.
I'm really loving this idea of failure. And you're really tying it in with this like entrepreneurial idea, like the fail fast idea, as well as like beginner's mind. And I think that's really beautiful. Can you talk to me about like when you use words like agile and fail fast, like
Mm-hmm.
those conjure like startup culture to me and the like entrepreneurial culture, which I actually have kind of come to love, but I'm really curious how that got integrated into your thinking.
So I've always been entrepreneurial, I think. Like even when I was in high school, I would like paint t-shirts for friends after school.
Mhm.
And then try to like, sell them or get commissions and do it. So like when I was young, I was like pretty interested in it. But then professionally, in 2013, I opened the Children's Art Museum of Nepal. And so that was a big sort of entrepreneurial venture for me because I wanted this nonprofit that I established to stand on its own. And so
Mhm.
I started learning about, and in college too, I've taken a few classes on entrepreneurship and applied for grants every summer. And then, I had to submit a budget and all of that stuff. So learning how to make your budget stretch, having an objective, like these things were familiar to me. And then running the Children's Museum, the stakes were higher in that we were serving so many kids that we wanted to make sure that we were standing for a long time.
Mhm.
And then after running the Children's Museum for a while, I went to grad school, and there I took a couple of classes on entrepreneurship and and innovative sort of startups. And
Mhm.
that was life changing too, because that was when we got to sort of meet a lot of entrepreneurs who would make mistakes, and those mistakes were shared, and you learn from them, and it's okay to fail. If you don't fail, maybe there's something wrong, maybe you're not taking enough risks.
Yeah.
And so I just love that idea of not stagnating in any way. That's never a mindset to be just sort of chilling there. I love the idea of moving and finding out what happens, and learning and curiosity is at the core of who I am and what I love doing. Otherwise, it would be boring to me. Like things can be boring really easily to me. So I always want to sort of push it a little bit to make it a little unfamiliar each time I do it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Well, definitely. And it's so interesting to me how these, like the relationship between like allowing for failure in the studio as an artist and that sort of like beginner mind thing, like, you know, doing clay because it's a little unfamiliar. It's really funny you say that because I do pottery as my like hobby where it's not bakeable. It's
Cool.
like on the wheel, but it's all mushy and wet and gross. And I just, there's something about it that I love because I'm such a perfectionist by nature that I like pottery is always kicking my ass and telling me like, you cannot control how this glaze is going to look. Like,
Right.
it's always there to be like, stop trying to control everything. And that's really actually why I love it so much.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think having that entrepreneurial mindset also opens yourself to looking at other small businesses versus only looking at other artists, right? Because there's no guidebook to how to be an artist, but there are a lot of great examples of small businesses being very entrepreneurial and making it. And so I'm open to those too if I have a learning opportunity. I mean, even for example, I've seen that you've like with Sunlight Tax, with you've done so many different things and like expanded over the years with your podcast and the way, I mean, okay, Hannah, I'm noticing everything. Okay. So like from the email formats to like the colorful e-flyers that get attached and like how accessible the information is and what links are linked so that it makes it easy for me to like get that information you're trying to share, like catchy subject lines, like everything, like over time it's become more and more of an efficient machine. And so that's something that I take like tips on because, you know, we've known each other for what, 4 years now, 4.5 years. And since then, like it's been a learning opportunity for me too, watching you and your projects grow over time, and how you update people on what's going on and how helpful that is for me as a client. So it makes me think of what would be helpful for my clients and how can I keep them updated and invested in like what I do. So yeah, I think entrepreneurial mindset is this amazing thing that we should all have.
I agree. And it's really creative. Ultimately, it's kind of a thing. I never thought I would enjoy running a business. I thought it was a like necessary evil. And then I get in and I'm like, oh, wait, I could adjust this thing over here. I could work on this thing over here. And I get excited again. It feels like being in the studio in a way.
Definitely.
So I'm curious when you say, I appreciate your kind words about me, but I'm really interested, like when you say that you talk about how to engage your clients and your people, like what does that look like? I want to say for an artist, I know you're not every artist, you're you and you're very unique, but like what does that look like for you? What have you learned? What do you try to do?
In the beginning, I used to think that it was I was doing mostly murals at that time, and it felt like it still is. Street art is such a male dominated sort of world that I felt like I needed to project this like masculine, strong, loud person that I am not. And so like after the first year or so, I was just so tired every time I needed to meet people. Every time and the fact is like my work is public, so I'm meeting people all the time. I'm sharing what I'm doing all the time. And so it felt really exhausting. And somewhere in between, I was just like, what if I'm just me? And I realized that me came out when I was in Nepal. What I was sharing on social media, was more sort of me versus like me trying to be this artist who always had sunglasses on. It was really funny. and, and I think it's age too, like as you get older, you mature more. And right now, I think what's working for me is, this sounds so cliche, but like being me, like 100%, and being honest about what I'm doing, the fact that I'm human and I was trying this out and it failed and it was so silly, but guys, check this out. It's crazy. It didn't work out. It's not happening. But you share that, and I think it just makes you human. And there's no, marketing tactic to it. Like it feels so natural to me and it's enjoyable. If I'm working on a painting that's not finished yet, I'm still showing that. if I'm really tired, I'm like sharing that too. And it's just being you really makes you unique. And
Yeah.
people are interested in unique versus cookie cutter, like, let's make my work look like this and how I tell my story look like this.
Totally. I think people have this false idea, perfectionism is the thing that I think really holds people back. And I think that a lot of people really get this false idea, like your Instagram should look like this and should be super polished and everything should always be perfect and beautiful and gorgeous and your hair should always be blow dried or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, what my experience in business really has taught me is like, actually, the more I am exactly what you're saying, like the more I'm me, the more I'm not that. And actually, like when I don't have a filter on the Instagram, I show how wrinkly my skin is getting in my 40s and like, those various things. Like people actually relate more. They like it more because it gives, I think it helps. I think perfection, like it's a barrier between you and other people. It's like armor, right? And when you let it down, then people can really connect with you like as a human
Mm-hmm.
being. And ultimately that is, I think, way more satisfying. It's ultimately what
Definitely.
attracted me to being an artist in the beginning, because artists, like it's a field where you have true permission to be authentic.
100%. And I had to remind myself that, why am I doing this? Why am I not just opting for, an office job that I'm qualified to get and I would get stable paychecks?
Mhm.
It's a choice that I'm making. It's not because I wasn't good at anything else, sort of thing, And
Mhm.
I got to remind myself, is this fun? Is this something I want to do? And why am I doing it? And my, number one reason was I can be myself 100% of the
Mhm.
time. I
Mhm.
struggled, when I was in Nepal in school, not getting to be, 100% myself. And then there are jobs where you need to dress a certain way, like, concern. And this is like a few years ago, but like concerns over like, and I think Boston is better about it now, but like, do you need to have your hair like straightened? And does that look more professional? And things like that, I think added up. And I was just like, but if I'm being an artist and if I do it well in a way that I enjoy it, I can be myself 100%.
Mhm.
100%, 100% of the time. So yeah, definitely. And I love like when you were saying things about like no filter and you're just talking to people. Like I love your morning talk walks or walk talks when you're talking directly into the camera and you're just talking about like you're just dispersing really important information, but it's like really accessible. And so I'm listening to that. I'm like, that's so cool. It's like I'm relating to it a lot, and that's being yourself 100%. And I think a lot of us forget. Yes, we're a business, but we're not like, I don't know, a branded Coke franchise. Like every post doesn't need to look the same, you
Totally.
know?
Hey, I'm interrupting this episode of the Sunlight Podcast to tell you about a class that I'm giving that's free to help you organize for taxes and grow that giant pile of FU money. It'll help you understand your taxes and fortify your business. I'm going to talk about the mistakes that every creative person makes when it comes to their business. And I'm going to talk about some steps in the framework that I use in my programs that will help you get yourself organized, understand your situation better, and get your head right about growing a pile of fuck you money. It comes in the packaging of a very creative, friendly space. It's a safe space with no jargon. I make no assumptions about you having any financial knowledge beforehand. So you can just come as you are, feel safe, and learn what you want to learn. Register for the class. It's free at go.sunlighttax.com/register. And
So
if it did,
yeah,
would you like, how would you really, if your friend started showing up on Instagram that way, like Coca-Cola, would you really, like, how would you feel about it? Would you actually want to engage with them, or would you kind of admire it distantly and be like, okay, but my real friends are over here?
exactly. And that's how I was also feeling when I was talking to people in real life versus Instagram. Back when I first started, I felt like I needed to keep up that persona. And so when you're meeting someone in real life, how do you keep that up? And I was just tired of it. I think going back to your first question, like it was a learning lesson that, guess what? Like I'm, not super loud. I'm like not a stoic masculine, like, sort of looking or like acting person. I'm like super happy and like giggly, and I still do this work, and that's who I am.
Yeah.
And it's been great since then. So I think sharing your vulnerability to a certain extent, I think that has worked for me. But it took time to get there.
I bet. Will you tell me a little bit about, so a part of your work that is super interesting is how public it is, right? Like you're talking about making paintings and you've had shows in museums, but you do these murals. They're massive. And I'm always, every time, because I grew up in Boston and I'm there a lot, I like every once in a while, I'm like walking in a neighborhood. Like just the other month, I was in Boston walking from Inman Square, where I used to live, over to Union Square, and I passed by one of your murals. And I was like, that was actually why I sent you an email to be like, hey, can we do an interview? Because I walked by your work in public. But will you tell me, like, you're referring to this world of public art and mural art, and it clearly has its own culture. Can you like talk a little bit about what it is to move in that world, as opposed to like,
Sure.
a gallery artist or a craft artist? There's many different art worlds.
Yeah, I think when I first got into street art, it felt like it lived more on the internet, and it wasn't limited by location as much as the gallery world was at that time. I think COVID has changed a lot of it. And it used to feel like I needed to know people who knew people to be able to show my work. But then the street art world felt like if you painted something and posted on the internet, like people around the world were interested. And that was super cool to me. And so the hard part was the part that you're actually in control of, which I loved, is if you paint, then you can show it. If you don't paint, you have nothing to show. That's it. It was just black and white to me at that time. And so like, I was just like, I just need to paint. I need a wall. I need to paint big, because you can't do a painting and then what would you show in terms of street art? So that really got me out to paint on my own. And yeah, I think that's how I started with it. And the more you're sort of sharing, the more of a community you build with people that you might not even have met. And then over time, you start traveling and you're invited to various cities and you make new friends, and, they're painting and they're traveling. So every time I travel, it's sort of like a summer camp for like artists, because I get to meet my friends for like that week or 2 weeks I'm there in the city, we're painting. We talk shop, and we enjoy each other's company, learn so much from each other, and then we continue what we're doing. So I found a really amazing community in the street art world, and it felt very barrierless at that time, as compared to like if I was trying to get into a gallery at that time. I don't know how I would do it. I mean, I still don't know. But with street art, it just felt like there were no rules, and you're painting, and size is size, and skill is skill, and you share it on the internet and Instagram. I shared it on Instagram, and that's how I sort of like moved through the street art world. And yeah, because street art is still like a global phenomenon, and people are interested all over the world. And it's public, so people can actually travel and like go look at murals. So I think that's how I saw it. I didn't know how other people were moving through it, but I just saw it as such an exciting thing where I could just paint, again, fail fast, right? It's like if I painted and it, if I didn't feel like I could paint it, then guess what? I didn't have anything to share. So like, quick lesson learned is that if you don't put in the work, you have nothing to share. There's no like in between, but then you paint this like massive piece, and then you get to share it, and it's just like super exciting to be able to share your work, and you have control over it.
Yeah. I want to ask a little bit, you referred to like your clients and keeping them engaged in your work and stuff. Like who are your clients when you're doing big murals like that? Who are the clients?
It really varies. Sometimes it's the city, sometimes it's a private property owner. Sometimes it's previous people who've collected my work and then would love a mural in their space. Sometimes they're offices, and then sometimes they're like super small businesses that I really care about. For example, one of the newer murals I did this year was for Madhouse Motors in Boston. It's this amazing motorcycle shop that's run by this amazing woman, and it's one of the best motorcycle shops ever. And she reached out to me saying that my work reminded her of her grandfather, because her grandfather used to be a Syrian calligrapher in mosques. And that's how we connected. And I was just like, I've never painted a motorcycle shop before, neither did I have plans to paint a motorcycle shop. What is the connection? But then when I met her and we started speaking about our heritage and how much we care for it, and how she was trying to build a space where, that felt like home for her, that's how we connected. And I ended up painting a mural for her new cafe that's attached to the Madhouse Motors auto shop. It's called Madhouse Cafe. And it's, my most favorite, like one of the most favorite projects that I worked on. So I think to a certain extent, we also choose who our clients can be and are. And that's another lesson that I learned over the years, is that you do have control over where your work goes. And it's not always where you thought it would be. Like, you need to be open to what feels, this sounds so like Hallmark card, but like that's who I am. It's like, you need to be aware of what makes your heart feel full. And it's not always painting giant buildings, and this really was amazing. And I got to meet the people who work at her shop. And while I was painting, I got to hear like the laughter and like just like chatter that went on in the shop while the whole staff of that shop shared a meal together. And here I was painting a mural that said family is everything. And so to just like live that, no amount of money can be paid to like for me to experience that. And now, I have like a lifetime friendship with Jay, who's the owner, and just following her journey as a freelancer, as an artist, as like a business owner, like that's priceless for me. So I would say clients are very wide and varied.
That's awesome. So cool. I have one thing that I really am dying to ask you, which is about just, because we talk about money on this show a lot. I want to just ask you about that. Like, what have you learned? What has been the most useful to you when it comes to just like managing your money, the financial side of your practice?
I mean, my journey really began after I met you, and this is not a sponsored ad. Because I hadn't even thought of that when I first attended your presentation on taxes and stuff, and it was all mind-boggling, and it was, I was just like, oh my God, how am I ever going to do it? But then you make it so accessible and normal, that as it should be, right? Like I said, like there's the B word and there's the M word. Like, why can't we just normally talk about, taxes and Roth IRAs and why we need to have that, And then like, I remember from your first class, even if I didn't remember most of the things, you were like, well, where's your FU money? I was like, oh, I need my FU money. And I think it should, like, how we talk about money should be as approachable and straightforward as that. It shouldn't be an intimidating thing, because everybody needs it. Everybody's trying to earn money. And like, how can we create conversations that are more accessible? And so, I mean, I'm not perfect. It's still a work in progress, but from year one, I mean, it's been pretty, I think every year I'm like improving in my understanding of money and investments and what makes sense to invest, and how to take care of your student loans and credit scores and stuff like that. But yeah, sorry, does that answer your question? I forgot your question.
Yeah, well, what have you learned with money? What has helped you?
So not being intimidated by money or to ask for money. Like
Mhm.
negotiate your, what you ask for is definitely something that is acceptable to do. And for starting artists, like if you're working on something that doesn't pay you, make sure you're getting paid in other ways. Is this helping you with experience so that you can actually charge for your next project? Actually, on Facebook reminded me that 10 years ago I helped paint like this really large wall for a couple of friends who I was like just basically volunteering for. And
Mhm.
without that wall, and I didn't get paid for it, it was like I was just excited to empty like 40 spray cans in a day. And it was my first time like
Wow.
painting so much and so tall, and like,
Mhm.
but what did I get out of it is so much more than what I would get paid at that time.
Mhm.
And so I would say when it comes to money, like it's not always black and white in terms of like everything doesn't need to feel as transactional. But then when you do start charging money, for artists who've been in it for a few years, when you do start charging money, like, don't be intimidated by it. That's what I would say.
Mhm. Yeah. And it takes practice, right?
Yeah, and save.
Uh-huh.
Save. Like having savings is cool, guys.
F you money.
Exactly. F you money so that there's a project that you feel like is gonna suck your soul out. You can say no to that. And I have said no to like projects like that, Some are big, some are small. But like having that cushion really saves you in terms of like being like like maintaining that wholesome self, like your wholesome self. So I would definitely say savings is the first thing, because even when I first started, since we're talking about money, like in the beginning, my costs were very, very, very low. And so I kept my costs very low so that whatever I was earning, I wasn't spending as much of it. So the first couple of years I was saving very hard. And then after that, like I gained some FU money, and then I was able to be more comfortable choosing projects. So
Mhm.
in turn, you're also building yourself and building what you like doing and what you don't like doing, what fits what you do and what doesn't fit what you do. So, I would say like everybody needs to have at least like start with a month, but then 3 months, 6 months worth of saving is so, so, so important, especially as freelancers. So you don't always feel like you're on the edge, because
Yeah.
you can't function like that. We're creative people.
Yeah.
You need to have some time to make those errors, make bad creative decisions, and then learn from it fast. So I would definitely, I can't stress enough for like that, just that pot of money that you just saved.
I love that. And you're connecting it to creative freedom, which is real. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have minutes to spare, dollars to spare, then you don't have the ability to fail, to make bold, risky decisions that might fail because like you don't have any margin. So
Right. And if you're gonna hate what you do, then might as well get a stable paycheck. Go get that office job that you didn't want.
yeah.
That's what I tell myself.
Yeah. Well, it's really beautiful how you're really connecting. Like, I think there's this thing that you really have to keep in balance when you're an artist. Like a lot of what we're doing is for love, is for connection, is for a higher purpose than money per se, right? And
Mm-hmm.
yet you need to eat, you need to have a place to live, you need to, there are things in life that you want to do, whether it's travel, family, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so money exists and you have to take care of it, right? So you can both not prioritize money above all other things, but still treat it like something important that you're going to deal with, right? And you can still do work
Exactly.
that you love and for other reasons beyond it.
100%. I think a lot of people might think that like if you're thinking of money, then you're a sellout or something. And
Mhm.
I think that's such an archaic thought, but now and again it does pop up from
Mhm.
artists and non-artists.
Mhm.
And I think all of us creative people just need to take a stand and be like, we live in this real world and everybody needs money. Nobody
Mhm.
would ask a lawyer to be like, what? You were thinking about money? How could you? That means you might not be trying then that means you might not be good at your job. Like, who says that to a lawyer?
Totally. I know when you're most other careers, like the amount that you get paid is a signifier of how good you are.
Exactly. And, why can't we apply that to us and, speak that way? So I recently posted this thing where there was a compensation package that was offered to me and it was everything but money. And I was just like, it still happens to this day. And it's just nuts.
Wow. Oh gosh. Well, Sneha, it is just delightful to talk to you. I want to be respectful of your time, but I really, before we end, I want to ask, like, where can people find you?
Sure. Instagram is the first spot I would recommend. It's Imagine 876. So Imagine 876. And then if you want to look at my work in more depth and read about it and see sort of behind the scenes process shots, you can go to imagine876.com.
Cool. That's so cool. And we're going to link up to those in the show notes so that anybody can dig in a little bit more and explore your work and maybe even reach out to you.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, Sneha, it's a pleasure and a delight to talk to you, to see your face, to see that gorgeous painting behind you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
This is great.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. It's great chatting with you. And I feel like this is a full circle moment in so many ways, from the first presentation that I attended of yours, and now we're just, talking about, and you've seen my journey and I've been like watching yours as well. So it's really cool to connect that way,
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for making that connection too. It's beautiful to me as well. So thank you.
Of course.
Hey, I'm interrupting this episode of the Sunlight Podcast to tell you about a class that I'm giving that's free to help you organize for taxes and grow that giant pile of FU money. It'll help you understand your taxes and fortify your business. I'm going to talk about the mistakes that every creative person makes when it comes to their business. And I'm going to talk about some steps in the framework that I use in my programs that will help you get yourself organized, understand your situation better, and get your head right about growing a pile of fuck you money. It comes in the packaging of a very creative, friendly space. It's a safe space with no jargon. I make no assumptions about you having any financial knowledge beforehand. So you can just come as you are, feel safe, and learn what you want to learn. Register for the class. It's free at go.sunlighttax.com/register. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.